Salutations, welcome to Loving the Language of Literacy. I'm Sophia Lee, and so I'll be discussing Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. This book came out over a year ago in March of 2014, and it follows a 22-year-old girl named Sydney who finds out on her birthday that her best friend and her boyfriend are cheating on her with each other, which of course is a wonderful start to her birthday. She ends up homeless because her best friend was also her roommate, and she is taken in by this mysterious boy across the apartment courtyard, and she becomes one of his roommates. For the past month or so, she has been sitting out on her balcony watching him play guitar, and she's even been texting with him as well as writing lyrics to the songs that he's played. And the two of them work out this deal where she writes lyrics for his band, he lets her stay in his apartment for free. And the two of them, of course, have this inexplicable romantic connection. And that's pretty much all I want to say synopsis-wise, because with this kind of book, you really just want to experience it for what it is. And what it is another astounding winner, Colleen Hoover, guilty pleasure, new adult romance. I've read Never Never, Slammed, and the entire Hopeless duology, and I just love and respect Colleen Hoover for her talents as a new adult writer, because she is just so good at writing these relationships and dynamics between characters, as well as just making things overall very steamy, and her male protagonists are very hot. Her writing style is always intriguing and super fast-paced, and you always just want to keep reading till the very end. She has these extremely layered characters who all have these really sad backstories, or at least complicated ones, and when they find each other and they fall in love, it just mends all the broken pieces, which just sounds really cliche, but it's actually not in comparison to all the other new adult books that I've read and that are out there. Somehow, when I read her books, they don't get old either, and I've read quite a lot of new adult in the past few months, because that's what I've been in the mood for, and the dynamics between the characters are just amazing. And I think out of all the Colleen Hoover books I've read thus far, Maybe Someday is most definitely my favorite because I find them so much more relatable. Slammed just took my breath away with slam poetry, and everyone knows I love poetry. I've got a whole series on it. With Hopeless, I loved the mystery aspect to it. But Maybe Someday was just so relatable with songwriting and music and just the bond between two people, and their love felt extremely fresh. And I definitely think Colleen Hoover has gotten better at all aspects of her writing as time has gone on. You can't really spoil that much with it being a new adult romance because of course it's going to be predictable, but I would advise that you read the book and come back when you have read it so we can discuss it. Goodbye, non-spoiler people. Hello. Well, I thought it was just so interesting the way that music played such a huge role in the story, and it was so interesting to have a protagonist that is deaf, because it's obviously not that much of a disability as we've seen in media such as Maybe Someday, as well as the show Switched at Birth. Of course, these are all written to be dramatic and enticing to read, but at the same time there is truth in them, and I loved how it wasn't seen as a disability but just as something that he had to live with, and it is a part of him. It definitely does not define him. And the fact that he was still able to play the guitar, write music, and just feel it was so interesting as a reader, as well as a reader who loves swoon-worthy things, because oh, the heat got turned up when he felt her sing, let me tell you that. I just love poetry and songwriting. The way that they tied in so beautifully with the actual plot and what was going on, as intended, was great to watch as well. I also loved the dynamic and the inclusion of the character Maggie, because they'd been in such a long-term relationship and she knew that she was a ticking time bomb, but something that I think it was Warren said was most certainly not dying, but in fact living, because she was going forwards and getting her master's degree as well as going forward with her career. And basically, just because she had her disease, she was not letting it hold her back whatsoever. It was not an impediment, but merely something she had to live with, just like her being hard of hearing. This brought in such an interesting aspect into it all, because while it was terrible that Ridge cheated, Maggie was able to be, first of all, the bigger person, and second of all, betrayal, she kind of knew that this was inevitable, and she was strong enough to distance herself from him because she knew the dynamic between them had been going on for so long, and because they had so much history together, it wasn't healthy for their relationship to continue onwards because all he wanted to do was protect her, and she knew when the time would come that she would need the protecting and the caring for, that of course he would have provided it, but she wanted to be able to live her life otherwise without being held back. Overall, there was just an extremely strong cast of characters between our two main ones, Ridge and Sydney, as well as all the side characters like Maggie and Brennan and Warren and Bridget. Immediately after finishing Maybe Someday, I actually read Maybe Not, which is the novella of Warren and Bridget's story. Most of the time, new adult novellas especially aren't needed in terms of plot arc, but of course it was really nice to have some more words in general from Colleen Hoover, and it was quite steamy. Plus the explanation and the perspective from their characters was really nice to see, because we didn't actually know why things went down the way that they did in Maybe Someday. So let's talk about cheating, because obviously cheating is frowned on by society as well as by myself, and because it's the betrayal of trust, and it's a conscious choice, and if you choose to cheat, it means that you are not dedicated to this other person, and that you probably weren't that in love with or caring for them in the first place. Or maybe your relationship has evolved with them, such as Maggie and Ridge's. I'm not in any way trying to justify it, but there are different types of cheating. And when we met Sydney, we obviously knew that she and Ridge had chemistry for one, and for another, we knew that they would get together. It was called Maybe Someday. They had an inexplicable connection. You know the drill. It was so interesting to see the two different angles of cheating and the different circles, because it was Tori and Sydney's lousy boyfriend who cheated, and she was the one that was betrayed, and then she went and became a Tory, which is what she wanted under no circumstances to do with Ridge, and Maggie was the one who was on the outside. So it was really interesting to see her perspective and the way she handled it as a character, and then when she was the one who played the other role. And just because you knew that Ridge and Maggie were going to derail did not mean that it was that much fun to read, even though it was so wonderful to see Sydney and Ridge bond because of just their chemistry and the connection between them as characters and songwriters and musicians, and just the respect they had for each other for honesty no matter what was going on. Overall, it was a classic Colleen Hoover read and my favorite up to date. The steaminess was just amazingly written. The characters had such strong development and arcs themselves, and I most definitely think that Colleen Hoover has gotten better as she has kept writing. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of Maybe Someday, what you thought of the cheating aspect, what you thought of the different characters and how strong they were, and what your favorite Colleen Hoover book is in general. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Keep calm, read on, and I'll see you in a video soon. Goodbye!